Thank you very much for the interview. David Nicholls, a British author. Thank you. So now, can you tell us a little bit of scope on your work? You have worked also with cinema.
That's right, yeah. I've written 4 novels, 6 films. I started in television, so I've worked across a whole range of different forms, yeah.
What are the topics that you usually approach?
Well, they're different. I mean, in my movies, I've adapted a lot of classic novels, classic English literature of the 19th century. My own books tend to be about love, relationships, family, growing up. They're a kind of romantic comedy, but not too sentimental.
Right, excellent. What scope of British culture do you believe you give in your work?
British culture? I don't know. I try to be contemporary, but at the same time, you want the stories to be read around the world, and so I try not to be. The novels are specific, but I don't think they're explicitly political, or I try to not have too many kind of cultural references. But I suppose they're funny. I suppose they have that British quality of irony and self-deprecation, maybe. There's a little bit of that.
What's been your discovery in the issue of British literature and the connection with cinema specifically?
Well, there's a lot of cross-fertilization. I mean, there's a very rich literary tradition, classical literary tradition in Britain, Dickens and Austen and Thomas Hardy, and I've written adaptations myself. But also a lot of our films are based on contemporary novels. I think, like anywhere in the world, if the source material has worked on the page, you wonder if it'll work on the screen, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't.
What is your connection with Digital Minds? This is the first day of activities. You also approach technology.
Yes, I mean, there's been a huge change in British publishing in particular, with a lot of sales of physical books moving online to retailers like Amazon, a lot of people moving from the physical book to Kindles, to reading digitally on the screen. But that seems to have calmed down a little bit now, and I think there seems to be a balance now between old-style physical books and publishing and new innovations, and I think hopefully they'll coexist.
What do you think are the advantages or disadvantages for young writers as to be read in this sort of technological platforms? Does it really affect or change or give you more possibilities as a writer?
Well, the opportunities that it's much easier to be read. I mean, to self-publish, to publish your books on Amazon, to publish without a big name publisher, and that you also have this medium to promote your work on Facebook and Twitter and all kinds of online platforms. The downside is there are so many voices. There are so many people wanting to be heard, and it's very hard to break through and to make an impression. There's just a lot of writers out there, a lot of good writers.
Has inspiration changed over these multiple voices, a lot of noise, a lot of word? What is your source of inspiration? How has it changed, inspiration?
It hasn't really changed at all. It's still, stories that I hope are funny, sad, emotional, stories that people will identify with. That remains the same. I don't think my writing has been affected by digital innovation. I haven't started writing shorter books or changed the language. They're still the same stories.
Well, thank you very much for the interview. Bueno, pues aquí tenemos a David Nicholls, uno de los autores del día en la London Book Fair. Thank you very much for the interview, David.